All right, well, we are recording.
So I don't know how that came to be.
Right, I got it.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome, everyone.
Mike, did you make me co-host?
What's that?
Did you make me co-host?
I just made you host.
Oh, okay. Because you could make me co-host, and that way you could still share your screen if you know.
Well, I think everybody can share screens one at a time.
Okay.
What's
Yeah.
going
If
on?
we're all set, I'll call us to order. Are we all set for recording and everything?
Oh, we are.
Yeah, this meeting's just being recorded and it'll be posted on our YouTube channel with a link on our website.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order at 6:33 with a roll call vote. Mike,
Here,
and I am here. Karen
Here.
and Pat Shear,
Here.
Jane,
Here.
Deb, Loomer.
Yep.
Good.
Here,
Deb Pote.
Yep.
And Len Reynolds, thanks for joining. Here we go.
Here.
Len, yeah,
Here.
and Bill,
Yes.
and thank you, and Christy.
Hello.
Hi. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So we're going to move along. Greg, we don't have the minutes, so we'll
No, and
move
I'd like
off
to
of that
just-
one. But thank you for the corrections.
let
on the other.
me just clarify too that I haven't uploaded final drafts of the 4 minutes we approved with the changes yet. I think, Mike, you were the one that suggested the changes, and you put it in an email, and I'm finding it difficult to find it. I think it's within a thread somewhere. I don't know if you know where it is. I can go back and probably grab the changes from the minutes, but I want to make sure I get all of them. I think you put some in an email and make sure that I don't miss anything. So that's the only thing that has sort of delayed me. So
okay. Well, I can look for that.
you might be able to find it quicker than I can, because it would come up in if you search your sent emails, which usually aren't
Right.
quite as many as your received emails, you might be able to find it a lot quicker than me. If you do,
Right,
if you just want to forward it to me, that'd be great.
I will do that.
Great. Thanks so much.
Okay. I didn't see Steve here yet. Does anyone know if he's going to be joining us by any chance? No.
What
Okay,
was
because
that?
he worked really hard on this. Steve.
Steve,
You're
I haven't
working
heard
group.
from Steve.
Where's David?
Okay, I see David's coming on. Yeah. So David Young is also here. Hi, David. Thanks for joining.
Hello.
All right.
Oh,
So
I
let's.
think Steve said he could not be here. He's camping with his family.
Oh, I did. I think I remember seeing
Okay.
that too. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to, thank Mike and Steve and Deb Pote and Greg for the work that you've been doing, and anyone that has contributed to that. The presentation looks, to me, it looks really, really good. And the background and the bullet points you have. So why don't I just turn it over to Mike, your working group, if you want to. How do you want to proceed on that? Do you want to go through
Well, I'll
each
tell you
one
what,
and just?
Greg, do you want to just share the video and we can go through slide by slide?
The slides, sure. Yeah, I can share it. Here, just give me a second. I'll call it up. It's going to take me a second. I got to get into that account. So.
Yeah, actually, I think of it as being Greg's working group because Mary thinks he's in charge. So. Maybe it's good that we have ambiguity there.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Bill, the Gil Montague group, you meet every other Tuesday, is that correct?
That's correct. First and
And so
third.
when is your, oh, first and third? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, here we are. We added a little color to it.
Looks nice.
Oh, nice.
Seems to make it look a little more, I don't know, eye-catching, maybe is the.
Mhm.
Professional.
Yeah.
One note on that, because we did talk about this in the work group. If you try to print it, I found on my printer that if I did it in black in grayscale, the background comes out white and the text is black.
That's great.
But of course, the graphs are hard to read.
Yeah.
If you do it in color, the blue background shows. So, just so people know.
Yeah, I did a black and white version and it worked.
So we'll go through, we can go through the slides. The top is self-explanatory and everybody look okay there? Look okay to everyone?
I'm glad you listed the members because that's again, for people like who's on that. So that is good.
I still have from Deb's slide.
She had a good presentation, the one that she pulled together.
And hopefully that's a little
Yes,
easier
it
to
was.
read.
And Raina too, not just me. Raina did it with me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So I like the order of this and going back and the way you did the history here. It's kind of interesting that we had a parallel thing going on. And then when Hart came together and the civic leaders to see that they were kind of pursuing a similar thing. So it's interesting how it evolved.
Look okay?
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, just jump in and ask.
Yeah, or suggestions or whatever.
Here's our process.
Mm-hmm.
On that previous slide, did it sound like we were all volunteers to this committee?
Well, that's not a bad point to put in. We are a board of volunteer community members.
Yeah, that's where we should put it.
But we are all appointed. It's not like we just decided to get together on our own.
No, but we volunteered and that's how we got on here. And then I think, well, when I heard you ask that question, I think your point was none of us are getting paid for this. We're doing this out of our own time. And that's probably important for people to know.
Should we put, we are the board, we are a board of volunteer community members appointed by the moderators from the 6 towns of.
Well, boy, that's starting to sound like a mouthful to me.
Yeah.
Well, it is a mouthful, but it does clarify that we've been appointed. We're, to Ellen's point, we're not just, getting
How
together.
about putting something down at the end of paragraph 3? Right if we talk about MGL chapter, oh, I see it already. I see a.
I mean, we could just say, it could just say appointed by the towns. I mean.
No, I think that,
No, but no, I like that. It's very clear. It only was a couple extra words.
okay,
Very
the
clear.
other thing to think about though, are the school committee members also appointed by the moderators or are they appointed by the school committee?
They still have to be appointed by the moderator. it is a requirement to have one from each town, but it still has to go through the moderator.
I was
You can-
appointed by the moderator.
You could just
Same here.
split it up too. The sentence is not so unwieldy. We're a board of volunteer community members appointed by the moderators. From
You can stop it after Warwick. We
right.
Right.
Yeah,
period.
this group, right? This group,
The board.
the board, no.
Members were concerned.
Oh,
Or
we,
we are concerned.
We are concerned.
Mhm.
Okay.
Maybe instead of saying we should say the board. I don't know. Makes it sound like we're the only ones that are concerned. Like we're sort of a political action group that's taking on something.
How about towns are concerned?
the towns are concerned, yeah.
I think that's good.
We
Our
started.
towns,
True.
our towns are concerned.
Perfect.
Yeah, nice.
Great.
I only can see a couple people, so that if someone joins, just if someone could point that out, if you happen to see someone else come in.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'll get a notice. Okay, we good on that one?
Mhm.
Mhm. Excuse me.
This is good.
Is there anything in there, anywhere I didn't see it, saying what the Heart Committee is? We know, but do other people know?
I think it was back on Who Are We?
I think that was in the first page where it said the Heart Committee was from Pioneer Valley.
We don't really say what it stands for, though. What does it stand for?
Oh, the
I can't remember.
healthy education and restoring trust, right?
Honest.
Honest.
Oh, boy.
I
I
think it's
said
fine
leave
to
it at the
leave it the
heart.
way it is. I don't
Yeah.
know. We're going to focus on us and getting the word out. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to spend time. You know,
All right.
we should all have been looking at these slides beforehand, and this can't be what it
Yeah.
was a couple of meetings ago because our working group worked on these. So we talked about a lot of stuff.
So that's good. Go to the next one.
That looks good to me.
Mhm.
Everybody good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had reviewed all the slides. There were only 2 slides that I had a comment on it, and this was one of them. And I was wondering if the 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it was the 6th bullet, we had the word develop, and it seemed like the word should have been implement. Let me see, where was that?
That's the 4th bullet, Alan.
Support the
4th one?
development.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Creation, you can put. No.
What's your point, Alan? What were you trying to say?
Well, my point was we weren't, let me make sure I find the right one. Maybe a flexible and a schedule allows administrators to implement. It's the 2nd bullet, to implement a more robust program of studies, because we've already developed it. The schools all have really good programs of studies. The issue is that with, you know, the fewer students and fewer staff, they can't implement the programs of studies that they have. So even if they blend them together, it will be, you know, comprehensive and very nice. But I was just, I don't know, maybe it was a little word to me that was something different, because I didn't want to imply that we already didn't have pretty good programs of study. The problem is trying to get it out to the kids, deliver it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Implement's fine.
Mhm. Yep. On that other bullet where it says support the development of middle school athletic programs, I would put the development of more, because I believe Gil Montague now has a middle school volleyball team. So it will be starting from scratch.
Okay. Done.
That's it for me. That was a good slide.
Okay.
I have a question, and it's on 2 pages. On page 10, which is called athletics/physical education, they're 2 totally different topics. We're talking about an extracurricular activity, and physical education is part of the.
Wait, can we wait till we get there?
Well, I can't, because we go on to slide 7. So I don't know when you want me to bring it up, on slide 7 or slide 10.
Well, I'm not sure. You're talking
Is
about
it in
7 or
2
10?
places?
No, there's there's something on slide 10. The wording is opportunities for health education, wellness, and life coaching. That actually should be on slide 7, which is part of physical education, not necessarily athletics. That's physical education is an educational opportunity during course offerings. I hate to be picky, but it really is not. Physical education and athletics are 2 totally separate entities.
I don't see on slide 7 though, we have special educational opportunities. Is that where so you want it as another bullet here? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, having life coaching, mindfulness, that's all part of an educational opportunity that gets taught in a physical education class.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. I just wanted, I'm just clarifying to make sure that that's, so we could just put health education, wellness, life coaching, and mindfulness, right? You want me to delete it here?
Like I said, it belongs as part of a curriculum. It doesn't belong with athletics.
Okay.
I agree.
Totally different things.
Okay.
So the heading you can take off. Well, when we get to 10, you can take that heading off.
Why don't we see if I can sort of drop it in here toward the end, but we'll put it there. Got to make sure. Make sure we have all the same font. Forget what it was. Was it?
You got some weird spacing there somehow.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure that one out too. I don't know why that. Here, let's go back and see if I can do that again.
There it is. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, and does the order of that seem to make sense?
Yeah, I remember we put the capstone
okay.
projects at the end.
Yeah.
But the other ones seemed like they were all sort of courses. The capstone projects were individual. That makes sense?
Sure.
Here, I'm gonna put it in the slideshow again so people can see it easier.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. It's good.
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 Yeah.
Okay. Next.
We have the 8.
Did we miss something? Oh, here.
Yeah, can you go back to 8? Is
This
this
is
8?
8.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is 8. Oh, okay. They must have got it short. So I guess this is a question. I didn't know whether we should be adding one that talks about being able to pool resources to develop pioneers, what is it, 96 acres or however many acres we have. I didn't know if that, if we're beginning that process. We had a student that's really excited about this, and school committees as well, but it came up in the forums a couple times about being able to do more with the resources, with the land we have surrounding that school, which is amazing, and it was a treasure. And so I'm thinking, you know, pooling the resources of all the communities to develop that more. Maybe that belongs there, but I'm not married to that. I wanted to put that out for people's thoughts, only because the staff that came out a couple times. What do you think?
I almost think that would go back on slide 7, although slide 7's getting kind of full of stuff. I don't see it as being a community outreach or partnering.
Well, the way the program is
Okay.
designed,
I mean,
the student designed program, it is an outreach. It is meant to include the community.
Yes, exactly. They're planning all kinds of activities to engage different clubs and organizations in the community and in the community in general, which is
Just come
why
over
I
and go
thought,
for a hike.
Okay.
yeah, pulling resources
So
to develop the land.
how would you word it?
Karen, do you have an idea on this? Because you heard some of the vision that they have on this. I have words like pooling community resources to develop PVRSDs. Was it 96 acres, Karen?
I believe it's 95. So close.
95 acres.
Yeah, I was going to say 94.
How about 90 plus?
Yeah.
90 plus acres, right? The largest
Yeah.
campus in the state. So there's a stewardship plan written by John Lepore, former science teacher at Pioneer, that goes back 6 or 7 years that he's been trying to help implement. And now a student has stepped forward to begin one piece of it. So there's already been a lot of work done on it.
so we could just say Pioneer Land stewardship expansion, you know, or you know, it doesn't have to be, you know.
Yeah,
These are just brainstorming ideas. So I think just using the same language that the student is using, Cooper is using, that John used.
Yes.
I don't want to belabor this.
No, I agree.
And that will
I
fit
think,
with a middle school program?
Well, it's already, some of it is being done by the high school students at Pioneer. So.
Right, but it hasn't been done in a long time. And this one student is the senior.
Yeah.
And I just think we should talk about it being supported long term.
Right.
So I wouldn't get too wordy. Like all the rest of them are just like bullets. I wouldn't say more community use. I would just say Pioneer Land stewardship expansion.
That's good right there.
It could be both. I mean, it could be both. I mean, both campuses are fairly large. I mean, if you know, if they're combining, it could be the use of land in either one, I would think.
Well, I'm just thinking that the high school will be at Turner's Falls, so.
Yeah.
Right.
According to our proposal.
It already uses the word expanded community outreach. And so my original thought was, you know, that's in the slide title. So that would be you know, developing the land pioneers.
Further development of the Pioneer Land Stewardship Club.
Plan.
That's what it's called in the paper.
Well, that's what that student's part of it is called, the Pioneer Valley Stewardship.
Pioneer Land Stewardship Club.
Plan.
No plan.
It's based.
He formed a club.
I know he did, but we also have a plan.
I agree. I think all it needs is to say Pioneer Valley Stewardship Plan. We don't need to explain exactly what it's going to do. Green school, greenhouse, rivers, outdoor classroom. It just, I would keep it sort of general and no further developments. We want people to see these slides and then move on to the next thing.
And
Right.
I would take
There
out
we go.
club. Greg,
Okay,
take
Yeah, I
out
take
club.
club out.
have we beaten that one to death? Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would spell out
And
Pioneer
his
Valley.
Montague reporter in there. There are other newspapers as a partner with local newspapers.
I would agree.
Yes, good.
Should we spell out Pioneer instead of putting PV?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pioneer Valley.
How about Connecticut?
No.
Good catch.
Mhm.
Okay, we're good.
Mhm.
This looks good. Reagan, unless we, yeah, this is good.
I would take out the slash physical education and just leave it as athletics,
Right.
because we addressed the other piece and the other.
I would hope we could get more physical education into a student's daily schedule.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
That's the state requirements get in the way of everything.
Have them run to school and run home.
Short-sighted
There you go. That's right.
people.
Make them miss the bus.
All right, 10's
Good
good.
for mental health too.
Yeah.
Maybe just Greg, just enlarging the font a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. That looks a little weird. Here, what
I
if
mean,
I?
would combining 9 and 10 make any sense?
We could 9 and 10. Put it
Just
below.
because they're both kind of short slides.
Hold on a
Okay.
second.
Good girl.
Let's try that. Let's see. So take this first, maybe. Actually, I can put it down below.
Yeah. So you don't need from the spring. Yeah, we don't need that again. You have it up
Right.
top.
Yeah.
We
So
might,
you don't
maybe
have
we
to
should
see it
put that
twice.
first and then have student services and athletics.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm just gonna copy these to the previous slide here.
Faster, Greg, faster.
Faster, Mike, faster. Time is a ticking here. What I probably should do is just put them all in one. Yeah, it looks a little weird. We'll have to work out the font issue here.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can do that.
but you got the point. And so Greg,
That looks okay right there.
Do we want to?
Yeah, you could just take out after athletics, take out from spring and summer 22 again, because we said that at the top.
Mm,
And you're good.
no.
I'm trying. It doesn't want to behave.
Should we put the one at the top? Should that come first, and then we can have students services and athletics?
I think they should. It probably is better to have them as two separate things.
Yes.
We're not necessarily grouping them.
No,
Yeah,
but
I
I mean,
agree.
but they're both from spring and summer forums, right?
Yes, they are. So we can put that like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if someone asks, I mean, it's on the slide. I think it is. Somebody wants to ask if that's from the
I think it's,
forums.
yeah, that's the
Well,
title at the top. It's implied. Moving
Yeah.
on.
But you started a new title in the middle of the page with the athletics.
Well, here, if you want to, I mean, we could make student services be at the top. And then, I don't know, we're trying to combine these. I mean, we could, I guess. I mean, it's just,
Leave them as two separate slides. They're two totally different things.
they are
So
two
they-
different things. That's why that's why I think it's good to have a different title.
And I also like that the more we say they've gotten this from the community, the better it looks for us,
Yeah, that's true.
And I like repeating it so that people can see that.
I mean, I can put it back. I can put it back in, but in a smaller font if you want.
But
Yes.
you know what? Every other slide has one title and
Right.
bullet points. Now all of a sudden you go to two titles. Once again, I say just keep it two separate pages. It's shorter, but it's very concise.
Yeah, just go back. Just
And
go back to
All right.
All right,
Yeah,
getting rid of it.
yeah.
I like Deb's point. Deb's right. Away it goes. There we go.
Great.
Okay,
Thanks.
next, 11.
We'll put a little picture down below. Some people, athletic.
Yeah,
Runner.
Just
Little
center,
runner.
that.
football.
just center the whole thing on
Maybe
the
some- Yeah. Have someone tackling someone else in a football game.
There we go.
All right.
Ooh,
So that looks good. That's fine. Move on. Opportunities for staff.
yeah. That's one of my favorites.
Hey, I was,
Make
just
a
a question.
Make
I
a
was
note of
making a
that.
joke.
Parents' favorite slide.
Both schools wanted football. And so if you're looking for something to put down, because you'll have larger population, put a picture of some kind of a
football
football
player.
thing at the bottom of that.
That's a
slide.
really good idea because football is by far the most popular sport across this country. None of us, may not, I mean, we may not all be football fans, but boy, there sure are a lot of them.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
it's
thinking it's
interesting.
something that they lost. Yeah.
I would agree with that, but what's interesting is that there are four schools at Greenfield High School in a co-op program, and they have just barely enough people to play football.
Right.
According to the newspaper.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Football's on the way out. Too many.
It's on the way out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, at least I should say it's on the way out here in New England. You go to other parts of the country, absolutely not. But
Yeah. Not in Texas.
At any rate, you could put maybe four sports or sports, volleyball, soccer, just something down there to fill it up a little. That's all. Okay. What do we have,
on
11?
this opportunities for the opportunities for staff.
Yeah.
I think the last bullet should be the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so
Mhm.
too.
Great idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good work, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a little faster, aren't I?
Well, you're getting practice.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yep.
Good. All right, let's move
Yeah.
on.
Ready for 12? Yep.
Okay.
Okay. I had a question regarding this graph.
Ask away.
It is confusing. And if there's some way to explain the differences between these two dotted lines, because you've got it in a legend, but it's not clear what's going on with it. And if I'm puzzled, I think other people might be puzzled too.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that you're just going to have to explain and say, the GMRSD DART data is really where we're at, meaning that is our actual declines in enrollment. And what you're
Yep.
seeing and the dashed lines are, you're seeing the NASDAQ projections based on 2018, which are the broader dashed lines, and then the more, the shallower dots are the NASDAQ 21. And I think it is important. I'm glad Mike put it in there because you're seeing two very different projections. And I think the point of this is to show that we really need a few more years for this to get a really clear picture as to where the trend is going. Am I wrong, right, Mike? Or is?
Well, yeah, my point was that we've gotten two different projections and they're pretty different.
Yeah.
To Lynn's point, back on slide 4, we talk about Mars and we talk about the Abrahams group. We might put a sentence in saying we got population projections, enrollment projections from NASDAQ in 2018 and 2021. That might make this slide more understandable.
And maybe if you just put some simple language down in your legend where you're saying the GMRSD DART, maybe add the word actual. And then in the next one, say the NASDAQ projection. And then the third small dots projection. I realize that it's repetitive, but I think it clarifies. It would certainly clarify for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. We could do.
So she's saying,
I
Lynn
don't know if you can
suggests
edit
you just
that
put a
in.
little
I don't know if you
label.
want to edit that. I think, well, we can, but I think Mike would have to do it because it's really a JPEG that's been inserted.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but you could put a note if it's easy enough to do, Mike. I don't know how easy it is, but just
it won't be too hard.
Yeah, you just put next to the DART, just write actual, and then you could write projected next to the other two. I think
Oh,
that
you're talking about the ledger, Greg, doing it in the ledger?
doing it, yeah,
Legend.
actually in the graph down below.
Yeah, in the
Where's-
graph. So when
yeah.
they show, I was thinking you're going to do it in the actual graph where the dots are, those little tiny
No.
black dots. Under there, it would say that.
Well, I mean, you could do it either way. I mean, you could do it either way. I mean, you could put, there's many ways to do it. You could add an actual
All
to
right.
solid lines with an arrow or something, and then.
I think the legend is
So
the easy way
we
to
can
do
leave
it.
that up to Mike. Mike can figure out how that would be.
I mean, back on slide 4, do we want to mention NASDAQ?
I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think, people understand what projections are, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think most people in the community know that projections of our enrollment have been done and they don't necessarily know where it comes from. So when they see NASDAQ, remember, we're not trying to necessarily have all the information. Well, I mean, you can't include everything, I think if you write projection, I think that would be good.
Right.
I think it's interesting that they projected declines and you're.
I mean, the other thing you could do, Mike, I mean, we could put attending enrollments up here. Oh, you did. You put history and you could, I mean, you could put actual, history and then parentheses like actual enrollments. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, it just seems if you.
We could say actual instead of history.
Yeah, it is history.
I mean, it is. I mean, people will know that just by looking at the graph. And so, but they'll see a solid line is like, okay, that's
Actual part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actual.
Yeah. Dotted represents projections.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That takes care of it, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean, that to me makes it a lot more clear.
Doesn't say much about their
Point, Lynn.
projections, though.
Well, the main thing is if, these projections are supposed to be a little confusing. And part of it is because, the COVID threw the projections off. And so we need a few more years to see where things land.
Yeah.
I mean, those might be structural declines. the ones that are the smaller dots could be structural declines, and that may be the more the reality than the previous ones. We don't know yet.
Right. We're getting into the script of the slides instead of the actual slides. I think Lynn's point was good and it clarified it.
Yeah.
We could move on.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next one.
Okay. I've got a problem with this one too. Can you please explain the dotted lines versus the green line? It seems that they're intertwined in some way, but reading that top part of the graph doesn't make any sense.
I think again, this is going to be these are actuals versus well, actually no, these are the Mars. This is coming from Mars, right, Mike? So you've got your 350.
Well, the two dotted lines are the Mars claim that
Of how many students there be?
basically they're talking about a high school of between 350 and 400.
Right.
So that shows the range that they're talking about.
Right.
Right.
So that's saying that as they said, it would be, enrollment of at least 350 would be more supportive of a robust educational program than 150.
And the green line is what the combined enrollment of the two high schools has been. And the black and the blue are, showing where they are separately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the green is just the black and the blue added together.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so then whoever is showing this slide needs to explain this.
Of course.
Well,
Lynn, I'd like to, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm thinking that we should allow for the fact that there will be people coming to the slideshow, not at a presentation, but just looking at it on the web.
Yes.
So I'd like to avoid, if possible, I think we should avoid saying, well, we'll have to explain this when we show it, because we might not be showing it to a significant number of people who are viewing it themselves.
How about in the last paragraph, in discussion with staff, a high school enrollment of 350 to 400, parentheses, purple lines.
Purple lines?
Purple dotted lines, whatever you want to call them. So you're identifying, when you're talking about it, you're identifying the lines right there. They don't have to read the legend if they even know enough to do that.
Yep. Dotted or dashed?
Dashed.
Dashed.
So these dotted lines are going to transform your actuals into something else?
No, these are just it was just agreed upon that when you combine the two districts, right? They said their projections would be that at least in the short term, you would be looking at enrollment somewhere between the 350 and 400 range when you combine the two districts, right? So that's where they project the enrollment will land. And they say, and basically their point is, and if it lands somewhere in there, that is a much more supportive and robust educational program than the districts being at like 150 each, right? It's making the differentiation between the combined enrollment with each one of them, which they're each falling, right? So, it could be lower than that. I mean, the projections that it potentially, and there's a good potential if the enrollments continue to decline, it will be lower than that. But I think it really needs to be said that even at 300, I mean, that's a much different school than a Pioneer that's at 120. I mean, 120 is really difficult to run decent programs, really difficult. 300 is not, right? You can have very robust programs even at 300, even below that. But once you start getting below, 200, 180, 150, it gets very difficult.
Lynn, does that address your concerns?
So the dashed lines represent what Mars projected the enrollment to be, right? At the time they were projecting it. It doesn't,
that's just what Mars,
you know, hypothetical.
No, the dashed lines aren't Mars projections. The dashed lines are, it says at the bottom, discussions with staff, high school enrollment of 350 to 400 was considered ideal. When Mars was talking with the administration in their, depending on how you think of it, they're sort of their last report, okay? Their final report. They talked to administrators in both schools, and one of the topics was, what could you do with a school of high school of 350 to 400.
Okay, so to me,
I have a question. Listening to the dialogue, I'm wondering, because that's right, that's a range. I'm wondering could you color in between the 400 and the 350, between those two lines, so it showed that was the range, and so it, the top and the bottom of the range, and then you have the lines going through it. Wouldn't that be clearer that
yes,
that's like not the optimum, but that's where they have targeted acceptable levels to running, programs, right. and then it removes it from all the, the other solid lines.
Yeah, but
I think if that's what it's showing, I think that would help.
Again, I think you guys are all misunderstanding what this graph means, and I hate to interject, but when Mars went to the respective districts and asked them those questions, right? They knew what the enrollments were. They knew that they were around 180 each, right? They said, okay, knowing what the enrollments are, if you combine these right now, right, you would have somewhere between 350 and 400. They're not saying that the ideal size is 350 to 400. They're being realistic and saying, if you double your enrollment right now, would that be, a better enrollment for your students? And would that be a more ideal size? They're not saying that 350 to 400 is the ideal size. I mean, 650.
No, I realize that.
Yeah, but we need to clarify
I totally
that.
realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally realize that. And I think everybody else does too. I'm just saying that if it says that that's the range that they identified by combining it, which it says down below, I mean, that just kind of removes the clutter of dotted lines and solid lines.
Yeah.
Can
so
I interject?
The thing is in trying to read this graph, I mean, I, as a layperson, am trying to correlate the solid lines with the dotted lines. And from what I'm understanding is these dotted lines have absolutely no relationship to the solid lines at all.
Well, sure they do. They show the comparison.
Yeah, they do.
To comparison, the solid lines are the actual, and then those dotted lines are what people are saying are the ideal. So you're comparing where each of the schools or combined fall in relationship to those dashed lines.
Well, let me ask you a question.
If I'm so confused, imagine that other people are not that.
I think you got it. I think Lynn has a very good point. I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure the slide's even needed. I mean, I think what the narrative is needed. The slide actually is sort of implying something else that doesn't necessarily connect with the narrative. And I think that's where you're having trouble. And I get it, because you're looking at these dotted dashed lines and you're like, well, what does 350 to 400 mean, right? Because it doesn't really tell you that. It just says, according to the Mars Consolidated Combined High School enrollment, it could be, it would be more, it would be clear if we said something like, in conversation with Mars and the district, a combined district or a combined high school would be reached of 350 to 400 if you combine the two schools. I'm doing this very well because I'm doing it off the cuff, but would be more supportive in terms of programs and robust educational programs. I don't think we need this chart. It doesn't really speak to the narrative. It just shows that, okay, you have declining enrollments, and you would still have a declining combined enrollment. But what is that really saying? I mean, okay, what does that really mean? And I think,
I'd like to put in a plug for keeping the slide, but maybe taking out the upper dashed line at the 400 level.
I would get rid of both.
I'd like to keep this. Yeah, I'd like to keep the slide too.
I'm going to go back to. I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
I'm suggesting get rid of the top dashed line, get rid of the bottom paragraph in the sidebar. Okay, and we just have it that according to the Mars consultants, which they said, and it's noted here, they said it in a couple of places. Okay, that a high school enrollment of at least 350 would be more supportive. And I think it is useful information to show the bottom dotted, the bottom dashed line, which is the 350, and show how the combined enrollments of the two districts relate to that level, have related to that level over time.
Yes,
I think that's useful information, but I hear Lid's point that it's confusing to have two of the lines and to be trying to figure it out. But I think if we focus on the 350 number, which is in the both of the Mars reports, because they put it in the first one and then they repeated it in the second one, so they think it's important.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but
think it's important. It's useful to say, well, okay, and here's what.
But it's not. It's the number itself is not what's important. The 350 is not important. I mean, if you understand what they're saying, the 350 means really nothing. All it means is they were having a conversation with them and saying, if we double the size of
that's the second report, Greg. The first report they said 350. I think they think 350 is right from the beginning.
Yeah, but again, it's the context of what it means. It means that if you have two high schools of 180 and you double them to 360, they're like, look at that. We would have at least 350. That would be more supportive. You could say the same thing if they both drop down to 150, you would now move this down to 300 and say, if they had at least 300, you would still have a way more robust, it's not like 350 is some magical number that says you're going to have robust education.
But there is a magical number, because we both at 75. You can say, well, it'd be better at 150, but we're saying we don't like 150.
And what the heck is
the question? Is 350, good enough? I guess maybe.
So what the heck is the form all about? So I mean, I think you've got some kind of a guideline in there if you keep one, but looking at it otherwise, it looks like you're trying to squish something in between those numbers. It's just a lot of non sequitur.
I think that the suggestion.
Take out one of them, whatever it is, and put it wherever you want it.
I agree with that, and I'm a visual learner, so I would be in favor of keeping the graph.
I don't mind keeping the graph. I think the 350 and 400 doesn't mean anything. It just
all right, let me ask you this. Yeah, so but it does mean something, in that was a zone. I'll use that word. It's like a combined attending zone that got identified through the conversations with it.
At that moment, though, it was at that moment. Right, and that needs to be clarified.
Well, that's what the slide is.
Right, that's changed now. It's dropped. So those ranges, if you went back to Mars and said, what's the range now? And they're at 160 and 150, they would just revise this and say 300, and everything would stay the same.
Well, Greg, but couldn't you say the same thing about the earlier slides and the educational benefits of expanding enrollment? I mean, as the enrollment increases, the possibilities expand.
Correct.
As the enrollment
Right.
decreases, the possibilities contract. So if we're going to say, well, the 350 isn't really relevant because that was just the number at the moment they're having the conversations, then, I mean, the examples on the educational benefits were also examples from the moment they were having the conversations.
No, they're not, because it's a relational value. But it's a relational value, Mike. It's a relational value of doubling the high school size. And if you double the high school size, no matter what it is, it's going to be more robust. That's their point. So whether it's
how about looking at it a different way?
Go ahead, Bill.
Why don't you look at it as that line, which is a hypothetical that was brought forward in discussions with staff. You're talking about communication here. So they've talked to some staff. The staff has expressed themselves, but what the graph shows is whatever the staff thinks, relationships, in relationships, the distance from the two districts from that 300 or 350 or whatever it is far greater than the distance from the green line, which is the combined attending class. So I can see that it has some positives. You're at least saying if we're combined, we're much closer to what the staff thinks is ostensibly an ideal size. And that's a totally different way of looking at it and discussing it than you all have been doing for 10 minutes.
Mm.
Thanks.
I would like to see the 400 line removed. And I would like to see something happen with the legend at the bottom, because the 350 to 400 students did not come from Mars. It came from discussions with the staff, according to the wording on the left there. So if you remove the dashed line, the 400 dashed line, you can leave everything else alone. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to show what the enrollment in the high school is. I don't think we've shown that anyplace else. We've talked about all kinds of other numbers, but this is specifically the high school. And I think it's important to see that.
Jane, if there weren't any lines there and it just had a yellow going across there and with that notation down on the left-hand side about discussions with staff, it's basically separating it from the graph, saying, because you can read that text and you just see a line going through from that top to the bottom, that range, and it's independent, it's by itself, but it's still highlighted that this was a discussion with staff. It's not a graph, it's not dotted lines. And I think it distinguishes itself. And
that's
you can
fine,
keep everything the way it is.
The legend needs to say that that's from the staff discussion, not from Mars Low and Mars High.
Yeah.
If you highlighted it in yellow or something and then highlighted that last statement in the legend in yellow, that might be more clear.
Yeah, because it separates it from the bar graph. I mean the line graph.
Right.
I think that solves the problem.
So what I don't understand what you're doing.
We're taking out both dashed lines.
Okay.
We're taking out the two references to it in the legend at the bottom, putting in a yellow band instead between 350 and 400, and turning the last paragraph in discussion with staff to yellow.
Yeah, I still
or
think
whatever color the bar is.
I still think it's confusing, because again, it's a relational value. I think you can get rid of the bands altogether. And what you're showing is with a combined district high school, you're still facing declining enrollment. But the gap between the black and blue lines and the green line above are what's important. The dashed lines don't really mean anything. They were a point of reference at the time when you double those attending enrollments at that time to say, all right, this would put us in this range of 350 to 400. would that, I don't think they're saying it would be considered ideal. I'm saying what they're saying is it would be absolutely more robust. Now that it's fallen even farther, right, those dashed lines come down because it's not, again, it wasn't about the numbers themselves. It was about doubling the enrollment and saying in that sort of band at that time, if you take them, because they're not relevant at this time anymore. They're not really relevant. They're not a relevant band anymore.
I'm starting to think that the ideal thing would be for us to go back and look at the reports, because I'm wondering, my memory is that the Mars consultants came in saying that there's a sort of minimum size for a robust program in a high school. It's not just double whatever the two districts have, that there's an actual minimum in their experience where you need a certain number of students, and that they said that was around 350.
That's my memory.
When they,
well,
and when they talked with staff, I'm not clear. I don't remember exactly whether that, the 350 to 400 came from. I mean, I know that when they, in the Mars descriptions of their conversations with staff, several of the staff talked about a high school of 350 to 400 and how they could do, good things with that. Whether that number came from them or whether that number came from Mars, and because we don't have transcripts of the conversations, we just have their descriptions of them.
Sorry.
It could have been either way. So
yeah, it might be. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I went back and read that really carefully, because that's what I thought too. And I sort of came to a different conclusion once I read it again, because what they were really saying was, you don't, if you're going down in your enrollment, and at the time they were closer to like 400.
Who's they?
At the time when Mars was discussing this with the superintendents and the districts, right, their enrollments were somewhere around 180 to, closer to 200. And so when they were having those discussions, right, if you read it very carefully, it basically is saying, a high school with 350 is going to have a more robust educational programming than a high school with 150 when you're in decline like that. So I'm not sure. I mean, we could go back and actually it might be good to call them and say, was 350 some sort of magical number that where we hit, economies of scale with rural high schools? I'd be curious to see what they say. I don't think that was their point, but
no, Greg, that wasn't their point. And they didn't say that. How you have this is, I think it's a good slide, and I think it makes sense. To just put a notation or put a color across that zone, just is highlighting separate from the graph. That's what the staff has said. You've got it at the bottom, so everything else that you talked about was on the graph. So that just is there independent as a catch your eye. Oh, nothing ideal or whatever. It's just, that's what the administration says. And so then they see how the lines are crossed out or do whatever. To me, it seems simple. It seems like we're saying the same thing, but we're spending a lot of time.
Well, what I don't want is the public to think that, that 350 is this threshold that we have to pass over. Because no
one said it was. No one said it was.
Put a band
note in a discussion.
Right. No, I know. I'm just saying when you put a band in there and saying, the ideal size is 350 to 400, that's going to generate a lot.
No one said that.
No
one said that.
Okay. I'm just saying it says down here, 350 to 400 was considered ideal.
I think the key here is the word ideal. And I see Greg's point.
It's not ideal.
50 to 400 is the magic number, and it's obvious that we might not get there. Are people then going to think, well, if we're not going to get to 350, then we're not going to be ideal anyway? So I agree with the wording of ideal. I think just sticking to the word robust is really just the semantics of where you want to head. No matter what the number is, if it's double, it will be more robust. Whether
Right.
it's 350, 320, 300, and I don't want to get hung up on that number 350 and 400 because I think the public will get hung up on that number.
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
And not about a more robust education.
Right. And if you read it here, here's the report. Both current high schools have developed a robust programs of study. However, the limited number of students do not allow the schools to offer a significant portions of their program. This results in program of studies that cannot be fully implemented. Simply stated, now this is following the context that they just spelled out according to these high schools. A school of 350 plus students, which is if you combine them, can offer a better program than a school of 150, which is where they saw the direction of these schools going, right? It's not a magic number. It's not an ideal number. It's just saying, you know, a school double the size of which they both roughly had the same enrollments would offer a better program. That's really what they're saying. It doesn't say ideal. It doesn't say this is the, you know, sweet spot of economies of scale. It doesn't say anything that. It just is comparing the size of the two districts separately to a combined version of them. That's what I'm trying to make. And Deb, you nailed it.
We need to get rid of the word ideal. It doesn't say ideal in here.
Right.
And
It's
so
not an ideal thing.
delete the lines, please.
I think deleting the lines, it tells a story, because I think, you know, to Mike's point, which you brought up many times, Mike, which is we're still, you know, looking at potentially declining enrollment. And I think that's a question that really should be asked of the larger, you know, combined high school. I think that's more valuable in terms of showing even at double the size. But the band, I think, is just confusing things.
Oh, well, I disagree.
Line at 350.
Disagree.
We want people to look at this online and be able to understand it.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Everything we've been saying leads to more confusion as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's why I think if you just get rid of the dashes and just leave it as, you know, this is what it would look like. And that according to Mars, in discussions with the superintendents, is that a combined district would offer more robust programs due to the increase in enrollment. And you can leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share your screen again?
Hi, Michelle.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to share the new one. There you go. But I think it's a very, I mean, it's too confusing with the bands.
Okay, so I can get rid of the dash lines if we're agreed that's the way to go. Do we want to get rid of that last paragraph in the sidebar?
I think so. It's not an ideal size. It's just a preferable size if you combine them.
Yeah. So I'd say we should get rid of it.
And up in the first paragraph, you could just say a combined high school enrollment would be more supportive of a robust educational program and leave out the number 350.
Exactly.
And you can even say, you can say both the Mars consultants and the districts agreed that a combined district enrollment, high school enrollment, would be more supportive of a robust educational program. That's it. That's really what they're trying to, say.
Mm-hmm.
So I say the employees or the
high school staff and high school staff.
High school administration and staff.
Yeah, I don't know who was at the meeting.
I just say staff, some staff. I don't know. I thought it was administration, but whatever.
It was I think there was maybe some interviews with that had teachers.
Well, yeah.
Maybe. Well, I'm not sure.
Well, and
mostly
here's the
staff.
thing, we can say the Mars consultant and the high school administration staff, when we had our discussions in June, there wasn't a teacher in there that didn't think that doubling the size of the enrollment would not improve dramatically the programmatic offerings. So I think we can say, you know, it
Well, do
doesn't.
we even need the side? If we take out the dashed lines, do we even need the sidebar then?
I think it helps explain why we even have the graph at all. You know, it's just to show that.
Yeah.
I think to Mike, to your point, which you've pointed out in the past, that I do think it's okay to show that even with a combined district, that they're still declining. I mean, I think that's something we don't want to hide. I mean, it's something that still should be considered. And so you're seeing a trend.
Well, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that.
What's that?
I think that's why I think the graph is good, but I'm just wondering why. I mean, we've said other places that expanding enrollment is good.
Well, I think it's nice
if we're
to
not gonna
see
have
the
any
difference,
numbers, I mean,
though. It's nice to see how much
reference
of
to
a
the Mars
difference it is.
reports was a reference to their statement involving certain numbers. If we're saying those numbers aren't important, we're going to take them out. I'm not sure why. What we are saying here, then.
Because it's a visual of this is where the schools are separately, and this is where the line goes when we're together.
Well, that's the graph, but I'm talking about the sidebar.
I like the sidebar because at least it brings this home that it's not just Mars, that these were also from conversation with the staff. So it just, people can know that. They just have to know it. They don't have to see it on the graph. They could just look and see.
Mm-hmm. And repetition can be very helpful.
Combined high school enrollment.
More robust education or offerings or program or what?
Program
Would support more robust educational programming.
Okay, I like that, and then we'll get rid of the bottom. Sorry.
Picky Greg, after Mars consultants, comma, high school administration and staff. Do you want to take out an and up after consultants?
Let's see.
Are they three separate things or are they two separate things?
Both Mars consultants and high school administrations and staff. Oh, you want to, where do you want the comma?
No, I was just curious if they're two entities or three entities. Is high school administration one entity and staff another entity?
Well, since he's saying both, I would take out the word both and say Mars consultants, comma, high school administration and high school staff agree.
There you go.
Well done. Okay, I like that.
I'd say remove the reference to the Mars reports.
Yeah, and I think it's okay that Mars report shows, you know, and it talks about that. It's nice to see the graph and the difference between the different enrollments.
Yes, agreed.
Because, you know, it can say that up in the education, but it's nice to actually see it in the graph.
All right, so Mike will remove those lines later. Correct?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I still think it's it's an important graph. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good graph.
Okay, move on.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Mike.
Oh,
Deb.
Everybody.
Can I make a comment
Sure.
about this hold harmless piece? Can we have a more full explanation about what hold harmless means and also project how long the hold harmless might stay in place?
I think we don't know how long it can stay in place, depending on, you know, we can't necessarily project the future enrollments, but maybe we could provide a link for a hold harmless to, you know, that they can click on, or, you know, give a source because, you know, to give an explanation is going to take up a lot more text in here. It's going to take up a lot more room.
Okay.
Greg, you might be able to just really truncate that though for hold harmless to her point, because we throw that around, just to put in parentheses underneath it, something like minimum increases in state aid.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
I would think, you know.
And that's it. I mean, people can get that.
Okay. Okay, I think that's a good clarification. Nice and simple. Thanks, Alan.
Providing the law doesn't change.
True.
And the sky falls
It might. You never know.
down.
Yeah.
Well,
You who give it and take it away.
there was a big revamp in 2007, so
Who knows?
who knows?
This is our best guess at the moment, right?
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Based on current
Okay,
law, the combined district is expected.
Just leave it. It's
10 to
fine.
go, right?
No.
10 slide. We're on
Next up.
15.
I have a question regarding this graph. It's confusing in terms of what's going on here. I assume we've got an actual, but we come back to a previous time and put a projected. So we've got this funny little gap between your projected and your actuals, and I don't understand how they relate.
Well, the projections were made at 2 different times,
Greg, can
both
you?
of them in the past.
I'll blow it up, sure.
Yes,
I will.
thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank
And
you.
then there was the pandemic in between.
Right, but so we have the actuals through FY23, but we got our first projections from DESI were in 2021, or starting in 2021.
So
And
then,
our
go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
sorry, it started in 2020, and then we got updated ones starting in 2021.
So maybe in your text, you can explain that there were projections done at different times, so that the graph makes a little more sense.
Well, suggestions on wording?
I mean,
Well, if you read the legend, it is explained.
yeah, if you read the bottom, it shows, these are, I mean, again, it might just be, DESI, you put projected at the sort of PV, right? Is that what oh no, it's Pioneer Valley. DESI, you could, in parentheses at the bottom, you put actual and projected, so I don't know, it matches the other slide. I think it's okay. I think as long as you understand these are different projections, it makes sense to me. I don't know.
Maybe
Yeah,
no projections were given at 2 different times in the past.
Well, yeah,
It does say that in the
it does
legend.
say that though. If you look at it, it says projected at the top, and then each one of these represents a different projection with a dashed line, similar to what we did previously.
Yeah.
Actually, Greg, the only thing you might change is in the other slide, the headers you changed to actual and projections, not history. So in keeping with
Oh, right. In this one. Yeah, good point. Up top there. Yeah.
conformity.
Yep. There you go.
That's a good catch.
Yeah, and look, Mike even did it in the actual in the pig.
Yeah, in the slide, yeah, in the graph.
Yeah, in the graph itself. So now it matches. That looks good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 16.
And this is, I think this was a good slide. If people are wondering what this is about, there's always talk about Franklin Tech and how it impacts the the enrollments of the two districts. But as you can see, it's, you know, it impacts it some with Gil Montague, less so with Pioneer. So it's good to just kind of bust that myth a little bit, that it really, you know, makes this huge impact on the enrollments. Because what, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but really what you're showing is that these are really structural declines in population of, you know, internal population of.
Yeah, that's the, I mean, the basic point is the green lines, which are the total foundation enrollments for the towns in the district. Because it occurred to me that, you know, it was possible that foundation enrollments were going up, but more and more kids were going to Franklin County Tech, which, you know, which so therefore the foundation enrollments for the Gil Montague and Pioneer Valley would be declining. And what this graph shows is that's not the case. That
Right.
The foundation enrollments for Gil Montague and Pioneer Valley actually pretty much mirror the foundation enrollments, you know, the total foundation enrollment, and the tech, you know, more or less is staying constant. I mean, it's gone up a little bit for Gil Montague.
But are you comparing apples and oranges?
It has created a huge gap between the total and the Gil Montague's foundation enrollment.
But are you comparing foundation apples and oranges, because Franklin Tech is a high school where the other lines that you have are district-wide. So to make the comparison with a high school to a total district number, for me, is confusing. Not given the Pioneer Valley, you're not given the Turners Falls, you're given Franklin County Technical School, high
It's
school.
not really apples to apples.
Yeah, that's a good point though, yeah.
Right, right.
I mean, what would be interesting is, and we don't really, I don't think we have that data, but I mean, it could be teased out, would be, you know, to show the actual enrollment loss from GMRSD going to tech. And that would be a much smaller number, moving more dramatically as the Franklin County Tech. Well, that is what it is, right? Brian, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Oh yeah, the bottom line.
Yeah, the bottom line is that. So yeah, sorry about that, Mike.
But what I'm saying is, so Franklin Tech we'll say the Gil Montague looks about in the middle, so it's taken around 100 students. But it's not taking 100 students from the 1,100 students. It's taken 100 students out of the high school population, which is we'll say 300, and now 100 are at the tech. So that's a much more dramatic. They are taking a lot of people, but because you show it as a total school district population, it doesn't look as drastic.
Right, that's true.
Okay.
That's a good
We are all members of that district. We are all members of the tech district. Because we believe in that kind of education for students, because we want a plumber when we need a plumber.
Oh no, I have no discussion. I'm just saying that it's.
But the other point I want to make is this: foundation enrollment includes more than Franklin Tech and PVRS and GMRSD. It includes every student we need to educate. Where is the line showing the rest of them?
I think that those two are who are the other students, Jane?
Are the ones that choice out, the ones that go to private school?
Choice out is included in foundation.
I know.
This is not attending enrollment at Gil Montague and Pioneer. This is foundation, which includes choice out from them to other places and charter out.
So these numbers have no relation to students that are in the district. They're students we're responsible for. And
correct.
That's a hard concept to keep in mind when you're talking about foundation enrollment for everybody.
Right.
Including those of us that are closely involved. So I don't think you can
ready to move on.
Yeah.
No, because I think the slide is inaccurate. You're comparing a high school population to a district population.
That is true.
It's not accurate.
Yep.
So I'm
Well, you
checking.
can't argue
Does
that
the
point.
state publish the foundation? They only publish it by district. They don't publish a high school foundation or elementary foundation for K through 12 districts, do they? I don't remember seeing anything like that.
I'm looking. I don't see it off the top of my head. They show. Let's see.
I mean, to Deb's point, it might be easier to see this in sort of side-by-side comparisons year by year, what the actual numbers are going down more in a, I don't want to say a bar graph. It's a, more like a ledger.
I mean, very simply, you could look at your 8th grade population in both schools. Graduation in 8th grade at Pioneer and at Gil Montague is at 200 students, we'll say. And how many students start the 9th grade at Turners Falls and Pioneer Valley? That would show the decline in population of no matter where they're going, they're either going to the tech or they're choicing out. So if you really wanted to know how many students you were losing, you would do it after 8th grade. And that would be an accurate number of how many people are leaving.
Well,
if that's what you want.
And actually, I'm looking at the state spreadsheet here, and it does break out when it calculates the foundation budget. It breaks it out into preschool, kindergarten, half day, and full day, elementary, junior, middle, and high school. So, assuming those high school numbers are good, presumably.
But once again, it'll give you the numbers, but it doesn't show you the decline. Like I said, I don't know if you want to show that, but.
So what was the point of the slide? Was it, Mike, was it to just show that the foundation budget, that these are the kids that we're all responsible for?
Well,
and this is what has happened over time?
Part of the point of the slide was to address several comments in the forums suggested that one of the problems the districts have is that the tech school is pulling students away.
And they are.
And so this, well, I mean, they always have. It always has. I guess the question is it getting worse from, and again, I fully support the tech schools. So I decided to look at the numbers and see what effect the tech school actually had. And I did look at full, I mean, Deb has a good point. I was looking at full foundation enrollment, where it does seem that the numbers from the tech school, I mean, there's significant numbers going to the tech school. They don't seem to create a big gap between, it seems to me that the overall foundation enrollment trend remains roughly the same for both districts as the as the foundation enrollment trends for each individual district.
Well, it's a little deceiving though, to Deb's point, which is that you wind up having this what looks like kind of a line at the bottom here, which doesn't seem to be moving and fluctuating very much. But what we're not seeing is we've had a pretty significant structural decline in the enrollments over I'm thinking over the last 20 years. And as those enrollments drop, that solid line at the bottom, which is, even if it's flat, is becoming more and more of a percentage of the overall, students that are leaving, especially in regard to the high school. So I think she's right. It would be best if you could put it in relationship to the high school. And to me, like, the graph doesn't really mean much. I would almost like to see it as, here's year, 22, and here's, and here was potential enrollment if everybody stayed in, and how many went to tech, right? And then how many choiced out to other places. And so that you can see where they're choicing out and how many are going to tech.
Well, we do have a choice in, choice out.
Yeah, and that might be more, that slide might just be more.
Slide out, totally out.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a little bit confusing for people, because like Deb said, it's sort of not comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
And
so the only way, go ahead, Lynn.
That's Karen.
Karen, I can't see anyone. Okay.
I see the charter schools taking a significant bite as well, and nowhere do we address that. I mean, we now at Pioneer about $1 million a year that we pay to charter schools.
And are we losing sight of why we're really here, which is to get a more robust education for the students that we have? We're not here to solve society's issues of trades are becoming more important. I mean, so there's lots of issues there that we have no control over. And what we do have control over is.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm saying that to single out the tech school isn't appropriate, because that.
I think the slide should go.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I would agree. Either the slide goes, or you do a foundation enrollment for middle school, high school, and so that's what your comparison.
Oh, it wouldn't even be middle school; it'd be high school, and then you would have.
No, it wouldn't be middle school, just high school.
Yeah, it would just be high school.
You could pull from that.
But
you could pull the foundation enrollment from high school.
It's not.
We're talking about combining middle school and high school. So if it's going to be changed, it needs to include middle school numbers, either in aggregate or middle school separate and from high school. But that needs to be there. We're talking about grade 6 or 7 through 12.
Yeah, but that's not.
Then we can't compare it to.
You can't compare it then.
Why don't we get rid of the slide?
Yeah, just get rid of it, because Franklin County Tech is only 9 through 12.
We don't need Franklin County Tech in here at all.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a little confusing. It was. I get where you were going, Mike, but and
Thanks for doing it for us, but I don't think it should be in the slideshow.
Right.
Okay. No worries. No worries.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Copy.
Whew.
And once again, I guess my answer would be, does it matter that someone's going to Amherst Pelham, or does it matter if they're going to Greenfield? Does all that data matter in what the decision is that this committee needs to do? We can't fix, I don't know. I'm just, once again.
That's a good point, Deb. It is. It's a very good point.
Yeah, it is. It actually is.
It is a good point, but it's always
what we're trying to do is create a larger mainstream school where, not necessarily, again, where students choice out are for all sorts of reasons. And it's not necessarily that they think the mainstream school is bad. They just have other interests. That's all.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes it look bad. And
right.
I've spoken to many of you about students are going to Frontier to play sports. Bottom line, that's what they're doing. Not because of the education, that's what they want to do. And so I think it just makes the schools look bad. Why are we bad schools because students are choosing out? Like Greg just said, for a variety of reasons, they do it. Let's work with what we're doing now, what we have. And if we can get people back in, that's great. But I just, for me, it's just negative. I go, oh.
Well,
yeah,
that's a
I have
negative
to agree.
I have a different question. Gil Montague, choice in, shows Irving. Are they choice in or are they tuitioned in?
They're tuitioned in.
So they really shouldn't be on this chart.
Well, they're there because they're counted by the state as choice in.
Even though they pay tuition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
the other districts pay,
This
pay
is
tuition
pulled, this is
too.
pulled from a
Yeah.
from the DESE who choices where
Right.
spreadsheet. And to Deb's point, a number of people over the years have talked about choice in and choice out as being issues with the districts. And my thought was, well, let's put some numbers behind that so that if people are interested in what they look like, I mean, this shows that Gil Montague, for example, has a lot of people choicing in from Greenfield, way more than choicing in from other schools. Interesting because Greenfield's a bigger school. So it's a question mark as to why that's happening. Does have a lot of kids choicing out to Frontier, but also has a significant number choicing out to Greenfield. And again, I've said talked myself about the example of my granddaughter where she's been, she went to Greenfield for her career from kindergarten through high school, but moved around. So sometimes she was a quote native student, and sometimes she was a choice in. But her, the point was she wanted to stay in the same school system. Meanwhile, there's Pioneer, which has had significant choice in. Again, interestingly from Greenfield, being the biggest one, and not so much choice out.
And this is K through 12, correct?
This is K through 12.
I think this is.
I just thought if people are interested in, what the choice in, choice out situation actually is, this shows it. I don't see it as being necessarily positive or negative, but for people who are interested in it, it seems clear to me that some people are interested, and this gives them something to think about.
But this is a different discussion. I think it's an awesome slide, and I think the superintendents and the principals in these schools should take a real hard look at this slide and figure out why and where. But that's not what we should be doing. It might be interesting information, but not for this committee. This is not, we don't have to analyze all this. We're here to find a solution to a more robust education for both of the districts. And we can't solve this. It's an awesome slide, but I don't think it's where it needs to be.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that because it's getting us off the mission. On the other hand, we were going to have several slides at not part of the show, but as addendums that if a question came up, that we could pull it up and answer the question.
Absolutely.
And, one picture's worth 1,000 words. So I would put this like as an addendum. If someone had to have, had a question around it, we'd pull it up, show it, but I wouldn't make it as part of our overall presentation.
I agree. It doesn't fit. It's not even a part of our mission. I mean, that's not our charge is to do this.
Well, except that that I think we said on an earlier slide that we would expect that having a more robust program would reduce choice outs, right?
Right. I mean, it's potentially.
Again, yeah.
But
so it just seems to me that to say it's that the choice outs aren't part of what we're talking about. Well, I think they are part of what we're talking about. They are concerned.
I would do it as an addendum.
I would do it personally. I hear what you're saying, Mike. I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I just think that it's going to really, if we're doing a presentation and we get into this slide, you're going to have we could have a really long conversation, which is not really what we're charged with doing, is to try and solve this,
I agree.
I mean, I do think it's an interesting slide. I agree.
So let's keep it, put it at the end, and hopefully we'll have some others there too, I think we were planning on, but we'll see.
Okay.
Interesting. It was pretty clear. Everyone.
Well, I think this is,
I mean, is this an addendum slide or is this a?
I think it's part of our core thing. We're supposed to be looking at what
yeah, I
the
think this,
effects
Okay.
of
Yes.
merging.
yeah, no, this
Okay.
is,
One of
this
the-
is definitely
and-
relevant, yeah.
You know,
Okay.
the question of what's our assessment going to look like is certainly
Yeah,
on the minds
okay.
of finance committees and select boards.
So the slide's pretty straightforward. It is what it is. It doesn't really require much debate, does it?
I mean, Montague and Berniston look like they do quite well in this. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what method you pick, but
Well, it's too bad they're each on a different scale,
That's right.
Yeah.
because
You can't really
you
compare
can't really look at
amounts.
the bars.
well,
and-
No.
but you're not really supposed to compare it with the other towns. You're supposed to look at it in terms of your own town and what the required local contribution is going to be.
yeah, I mean, is there a reason why you'd want to see how Montague's assessment compares with, say, Northfield?
Not really. I mean, it's interesting to see who goes up and who goes down, but you know, you're really going to be interested in your own town in terms of what the impact would be.
Well, it's driven by enrollment.
Well,
or whatever.
It's
yeah.
also driven by the wealth of the community.
Well, but this
Right.
is,
And the demographics. It's pretty, I don't know, it's
Mm.
Understanding required local contribution is another whole evening's discussion,
Yes.
at
It is.
least.
Well, and I see that, I mean, you know, this slide is, there will be people who are interested in this slide, and I think most of them will, in my opinion, most of them, if not all of them, will come to the slide with already some sort of understanding of how assessments work. I think that people who don't have any understanding of how assessments work probably won't care much.
Question, what does RLC mean, please?
required local contribution.
I see it down the bottom. Okay, thank you.
all set
Yeah.
Yep.
on the 19th.
Here's your chart bar graph here, Lynn, which shows chapter 78 history and shows your hold harmless and how far away it is from climbing out of it. So you can see Gil Montague, right?
Yes.
FY21, it was out of hold harmless. FY23 is out of hold harmless, but back in FY22. And Pioneer has been steadily going up and down, but is still quite a ways away from being able to get out of hold harmless.
Okay, 20. I thought there was one additional bus that may be needed, but we talk about maximum bus rides for middle and high school. It's expected to be 1 hour. And so we seem to be inflating. Some kids are going to be on shorter amounts and some longer amounts, right?
Yeah.
Right, and we should mention that.
Well, it does. It says, but bus rides could potentially increase by up to 20 minutes for some students, but it could drop for others, you know?
Well, I know, but we don't
Which-
say
which
that.
ones will
We're
it
only
drop?
talking
Say
about.
that.
That's worth stating.
Yeah, I mean, I would just, again, I would think it's just comes out to be a wash, but I mean, you could say, yeah.
I mean, how many students is it going to drop for?
Well, we don't
Well,
really
how
know.
many is it going to increase for? You don't
We
know.
don't- we
either
don't know
answer
because
you
you
don't
don't
know
know.
who
I
the
mean,
students are.
Middle school kids from Gil Montague are mostly going to increase if they're heading up to Northfield.
Not
High school
necessarily.
kids from
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. No, it depends on where the bus route starts and where it ends. I mean, it doesn't, you know, you can have, I mean, remember the Cosmescus is centered in Gill. So, you know, where it picks up, who it picks up first, how they design their route, it may change.
Yeah, but so students in Gill,
well, you
may
can't
have shorter bus rides.
It's not about distance though, Mike. It's not about distance from the school. It's about how long the bus ride is in relationship to the bus route that they take. So, and that depends on what students are picking up in what location. So, you know, it's not about like, I mean, you could have someone way down in Montague Center and still arrive before a student in Gill. I mean, you just don't know. It depends on how the bus route is designed. You know,
so
maybe,
where the cursor
And the
is
bus,
right
when the
now,
bus
I
it
still
goes
think
say
it's going
and
to take that
decrease for,
student in Montague Center longer to get to Northfield than it is to get to Turners Falls.
again, it's not about distance to the school. It's about the bus route. You could literally, you could
Yeah,
pick
but
up
I
a
think
student in
the
Gill.
distance makes a difference.
No,
you
it
know,
does.
it's all academic, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's all academic. It depends on where the bus route starts and where they're actually picking up students.
So
Greg, where the cursor is, can you just put where the cursor is and say and decrease for others and just like that?
There you go.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Period.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Alan, to your point about there being an extra bus, yeah, that's why I said approximately the same number of buses.
Okay,
Because
thank you.
It varies based on where the students are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess all I'm trying to say, Mike, is that, you know, they could run a bus route where it starts down in Montague Center and it's only a 30-minute bus ride and they pick up, you know, students on the periphery and end up at the middle school in Pioneer. You could have another bus that starts in Gill and then does this very long loop that takes an hour. So even though the Gill students are closer to Pioneer, they still end up, you know, on the bus for an hour. So it really depends on where it starts and where it finishes and where they're picking up students.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we
And it
got
may
that.
not stay entirely in Gill.
Right. I mean, it just depends. You just never know. You never know where the bus route's going to start.
Next slide.
Next slide.
Agreed.
He's moving along.
Yes, move along. I mean, this is all an academic conversation.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was pretty clear. I didn't see anything. How about other folks?
Looks good.
I'm wondering about the part, it was decided.
Yeah.
It's under discussion.
Well, yeah, I mean, the recommendation would be to do that. It was agreed that the recommendation would be, you could say something like that.
We want to say our recommendation is to send middle school students.
I don't think.
Well, I mean, I think everyone involved, including the Mars and administrations and, you know, I mean, it's the facilities are anyway, pretty.
How about it would be best to send middle school students, and this way it doesn't have that absolute finality to it.
Okay.
We know it is.
Okay.
Well, again, it was decided. I can see. I mean, do we want to make it who decided? Right.
Right.
Right. That's why it would be best.
Yeah, but I thought we did. I thought when we, I thought we had the Mars report.
We decided.
Yeah, when we had the Mars report, we did that. And then we talked about it for a long time about mothballing and not mothballing and political and how one school had maybe would be more conducive. We had a long conversation about that. I don't think we took a vote, but I thought it was really kind of an understood consensus that that's where we were at.
I'm not questioning that. I agree with what you're saying, Alan, but it was decided, begins to sound like decisions have been made for you already.
Right.
Okay. So maybe the board felt or agreed.
Agreed.
That's good. It was
It would be
agreed.
best to send.
That's
Well,
good.
yeah, why not say the board agreed?
I think it
Yeah.
should say the board agrees.
Yes, take away the passive voice.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It could be the board. It could also be, you know, I mean, it was also agreed upon by the consultants as well as the districts, I think.
But we didn't have to take their recommendation. We didn't
No,
have
we-
to take their recommendation.
But
Right.
we
Yeah.
did.
We did, but we listened to the staff, we listened to their recommendation, and we beat that
Yes.
around for a long time. And then we eventually decided, so capitalize the word board.
Yeah.
Or just use we, you know.
Or maybe
Um,
the STRPB?
The board has agreed.
How
Yes,
about just say agrees?
mhm.
Take out that.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you, why wasn't there no more clarity in that the middle school students to the Pioneer facility and the high school students to the, why are we saying to one and to the other? Why are we not being clearer?
Read the next bullet.
I know, I get that.
We
Because
could be clear.
Oh,
It's middle school students to Pioneer Valley.
have we all
PVRSD,
agreed to
Pioneer
that?
Valley.
though? Have we all agreed to that? I still have some doubts. But
You use the word
I would love
might.
to know. The only reason I say really is because if you look at the facilities, you want your middle school students to be going to what is, you know, a facility that is pretty, you know, objectively better and bigger and more space and more, you know, and is newer in all respects. You know, you compare the common spaces like the theater and things like that, you know, it would be a step down. I mean, I don't say that, you know, I'm just saying as someone that works in schools, I would not want to be sending my middle school students to Turner's Falls so that they could go and, you know, the theater kids could then go to Pioneer to work on that stage, which is not anywhere near as attractive or as robust as the one in Turner's Falls. And I'm not, you know, that's just looking at it objectively. You want your middle schoolers to have something to look forward to. You want that progression to go from you know, elementary to middle school and then up to high school.
Karen, have you ever walked around Turner's Falls High School?
yes,
I
And
mean, it's dramatically better. And that's someone that has no connection to either of them.
I understand. I just, as a science teacher who took advantage of the beaver pond and all the other things at Pioneer for environmental science, it just, it's hard. It's hard.
but Turner's Falls has greenhouses. They have all the land behind there. A course is what a teacher makes it. And so just because you had all those wonderful programs doesn't mean the person who came after you does.
I know. Thank you for helping me through this.
Well, and the beauty, Karen, is the beauty of it, Karen, is that if you combine the district, there's no reason why, you know, high school students couldn't travel to the other campus for a specific reason to do, you know, science project or something like that. You know, they love field trips.
Yeah.
True.
Thank you. Thank you for
True.
helping me.
We're glad for your allegiance.
Could we consider, and I know this is small, using the word might instead of would in the STRPB agrees? That gives a sense that there might be some flexibility if the public has their own ideas.
Well, the reason we were saying it is because the mothballing of a facility, if we tried to say we're going to send them all to one facility, then the mothballing becomes a really big
Oh,
deal.
yeah.
It's not about one sending them to one or the other. It's saying that it's really in relationship to the mothballing.
Okay.
We're not gonna
Yep.
do that.
Okay.
Next slide. Hey, we're getting toward the end. 22. What is there? 25, right? 25 and 26.
I just have one comment under bullet number 2, instruction. I think that language needs to be made a little clearer. It's a little bit muddied in terms of what it's trying to say.
This is number 2, the second bullet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So establishing instructional coherence across elementary schools.
That's a sentence fragment.
Yeah, I don't know this. Where did this come from? I don't even know.
This came from the concerns, I think it's from the the final Mars report.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'd have to have a common curriculum in all the elementary schools that are coming up, you know, through the middle schools and high schools. So if they're not on the same page, you've got to
Maybe
have
we should
that
say common
coherence.
curriculum instead of instructional coherence.
Well, make it
Well,
into
it's more than just curriculum.
That's right.
Okay.
Establishing.
Yeah, I mean,
Can we just take that out? Can we just say instruction? Existing districts use different instructional programs. All students need to be equally prepared, and get rid of the establishing instructional coherence.
I like
Yes.
that. I like that.
Yeah.
It's basically
Yeah.
saying the same thing, just in a
Mhm.
different way.
I have a question about the first bullet. I feel
Before
like,
you move, wait a minute.
Yep.
Deb, before you go to there, just finish this up.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought,
That previous one was specific to the challenge of the elementary, wasn't it? Wasn't it looking at all, you know, the elementary? Because this existing district uses different instructional programs. I to just get in
Different
there somewhere, the
elementary.
thread.
There.
Yeah. This is different. Yeah, also, yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Deb.
no, the first one I just feel like is the sky falling. Enrollment. What if enrollment declines? What if enrollment increases? What if, you know, something happens? To me, that's just an arbitrary what ifs. I mean,
Yeah, what if is not really a challenge? It's not only a challenge if it actually happens, right? I mean, I think the existing districts would have to bring their instructional programs into alignment. I think that's a reality. Whereas the other one,
no, the second one, when Alan said Debbie, I went up to the first one.
yeah, no, I'm differentiating between two because I think you're right. You know, we can bring up a lot of what ifs. Whereas the second one is not a what if. It's something.
No,
everybody
that's
needs to get.
definite.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a definite. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I think you could take out the first bullet, and I think the apportionment of town assessment should be its own bullet.
I see. So you'd still have 3 bullets. You'd make.
Still have 3 bullets.
You'd have governance one and assessments as another.
Right. You're going to make that the first one? Okay.
Well, if we do that, then I think the second one, the third one should
I
become.
would put instruction first. We're all about education.
Well, that's what I'm
Instructional
thinking.
part.
Yeah, no, I agree. Here,
Mhm.
let's do that. Let's see.
I would put it last. Because
You're killing me now, people. Come on.
I'm
What,
sorry.
Well, it's already down there. I just thought you could put a bullet in front of it.
all right, we'll put it last if that makes you all happy. Here we go.
we still have it second.
And there are many more on the next slide.
Oh, shoot. It's not gonna let me do that. It's going second. I don't want to have to do all this work on the, sorry. Close enough.
Yeah. Is there a
You need
reason
to
why we
take
said
out that
existing
last
districts?
phrase. Also deciding how to needs to
Yeah,
go.
take that, right.
There we go. That looks good.
Give Greg a pass.
Yeah, it really, the
Yeah.
order, as long as those two come in second and third.
Should we just to be consistent, we've got the first and the third begin with a word and a colon. Should the second one would begin with assessments, colon, how to apportion among the towns?
Yes.
And then you look at the continuing list and that goes away. So there's the problem.
How's
But
that?
it's consistent on that slide.
That's good.
So that's a visual.
Okay.
Okay.
Go to the next one. We're on 23.
Which has one with a colon.
Well, we can take the colon out.
Or you can add that one to the previous slide.
Yeah.
The question I have on this one,
Mhm.
the challenge of bus ride lengths will increase for some students. We already talked about that. You know, the max, it's only going 20 minutes. You got tech school kids on buses for over an
Yeah,
hour.
I would get
I
rid
don't
of
think
it.
that's a challenge or a concern.
It is for some people.
It certainly is. Went round and
addressed
round
it.
with Warwick about
Yeah.
that.
Again, you have to, you know, it's, nobody knows if their kid's going to be on longer or shorter until it actually happens. Because they'll redesign all the bus routes.
Yeah, so make bullet number 2 into a sentence, not 2 fragments. Just take out make the capital W on will a small one and merge it with the prior line.
And take
Right.
out the word likely, it definitely will.
Require.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That is true.
The other thing I would just comment on is the 6 towns having different demographics. You know, you could consider that an asset, that there'll be diversity in a population. So to have that down as a challenge and a concern makes it seem like one group is better than the other.
Yes.
I agree. I think it's a good educational tool to be different.
Yeah, I think
The whole world is different. Let's learn how to live with each other.
I mean, it was raised by, I think, both in the forums and the staff conversations as something to consider. So,
yeah, it was actually in the Mars reports too.
Yeah.
I mean, without trying to say that, I mean, yes, some people, and some people did say, hey, that would be an advantage.
How about if we
not
just
everybody
say,
said that.
will the 6 towns merge into, get rid of the different demographics phrase?
Hmm.
You already deleted half of it, so I can't reword it now.
I don't think we should be leading with a question though. That's not really a question that I think you can just say, because people will have their own, some people might have their own concerns, but I don't think
So
we have
merging the 6 towns into a well-blended district is the challenge.
Oh,
Merging 6 towns into a well-blended district.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That sounds good.
Very well said. with, yeah, merging 6 towns with different demographics.
To a well-blended dish, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, put a hyphen for well blended. And change units to collective bargaining agreements.
Well, I would say that again.
Instead of units.
Agreements.
Change the word units to agreements.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that last one, once again, who knows? Who knows?
That's almost negative.
Yeah, it's like, I would take it out. It's,
Yeah.
again, the sky could fall. The bus company, might not be there tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
The other thing is, I mean, kicking the can down the road, actually, if you think about it, if you go from a 2 and 4 town district that are both declining to a 6 town district, okay, well, fine, it might still be declining, but you are absolutely giving your students better education. So if it continues to decline and you wind up in that situation, you still served all those students in the meantime with a better education, right? I mean, and ultimately, if you have to then expand outward again, but you saved yourself a whole lot of grief for, that may be 10, 15, 20 years if it happens at all. So
yeah, I would get rid of that.
I would get rid of it.
Challenge for us. That's
I would get rid of it.
Happen.
It might happen, who knows? Is that it?
Yay.
Yeah.
Choosing names and colors of mascot doesn't sound like much of a challenge.
Oh, but it has been. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just look at all the places that happen.
Do that.
Yeah,
no.
That whole identity thing is tough.
I know.
I think that may be one of the biggest problems we'll have.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the communities.
Can I ask this question, folks? So if we can we just go back, not go back, but this slide here and the one before says challenges, concerns. And the only thing about that is it bothered me that these are areas that are going to need more attention. And we're categorizing, trying to categorize them into a negative or into making it bigger, I think, than it really is. I think what it's saying is these are things that are going to really need more attention from the staff and the community, and we're going to have to work together to figure this out. So I was just didn't know if there was a better way of saying concerns and challenges.
How about we just take out the concerns part? Challenges aren't always a negative thing.
Yeah.
I view challenges as the way we grow.
Yeah.
Well said.
I like that.
That is coming from a teacher right there.
Well,
it's true though.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I think we should keep the continued though. On the second slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Karen, because it was the concern part that made me, I didn't know how to solve that. That was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We done?
We're done.
All right, folks. It is 8:45. You know how I don't like to go beyond 2 hours.
Past my bedtime.
Too late.
Yeah, we can literally make what we haven't gotten accomplished part of our next agenda. I guess it would make sense in conclusion to should we take a vote on endorsing the slide presentation so that we're all behind it? And it's
a great idea. because I think it's important to figure out, are we all in agreement that this is, that the education of the students would be more robust if the districts were combined? Which is what
Well, that's different from the presentation.
I move that we endorse the presentation as edited tonight.
I'll second that.
Yeah, and since the presentation makes it clear repeatedly that that is a reality that we've learned over the last 3 years, I guess doing that is doing the same thing.
Yeah, it is.
So I have a motion and a second. Did you get that, Greg? Is there any other discussion on that? I'll do a roll call though.
No, wait a minute. What's the motion?
To accept the slides as presented now with the edits.
Okay.
Okay, and who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you, Len. Okay, Karen, I'll start with you. Okay, Karen did. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
We all did. Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Pat? You're on mute.
Yes.
Thank you for staying with us. Jane?
Yes.
Yes.
All of us, all of you, thank you. Deb?
Yeah.
Bill?
Yes.
Len?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right, thank you. That's unanimous. A lot of good work. Do you have your calendars available?
Yep.
I just, to get things started in the conversation, I threw out 2 dates. Now I'm thinking maybe that's a good thing since we need to get the logistics and all of that figured out so we can start rolling that out. I sent a list out for you to start thinking about and adding to. So if you use that as a basis and we can share that, or you can get me other ideas that you think we should be using, that could expedite our next meeting, because I'll just keep adding those and putting them in categories and then get that to you prior to our next meeting, if that makes sense. So I had Tuesday the 4th. I think that's why David could join us, because he usually can't make Wednesdays. And then I had October 7th.
But the 4th,
Ellen,
the first.
I can't make either of those dates. I'll be away for my daughter's wedding.
Right, right.
I will.
And that's going to be a great time
The 4th
for
is
you.
the first Tuesday. That's bad for Bill, right?
Yeah.
And I will be
Okay,
around
then let's,
for,
how about that Wednesday, the 5th?
I can do that.
I'll still be
October
away.
5th? Yeah, we'll miss you, Karen.
No,
But you have a great wedding.
Wednesdays are what David,
Mike-
David can't make Wednesdays. That's the only thing.
Oh.
It's nice to see David here.
I know.
It is.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We might have needed him for a quorum, so thanks, David, for hanging in.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was enlightening. Okay, so why don't I, and 6:30? So 6 Town Regional Planning Board, October 5th, 6:30.
What day of the
And
You don't want to just go to the next
week is that? I've got my calendar right here.
say that again?
What day of the week is that?
That's Wednesday. That is a
Okay.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, that just, I mean, we've got 11 people now. If Karen and David aren't there,
and I won't be there.
and you won't be there, then that gets us down to 8. So already we got quorum problems.
Well,
Right, I'll reach out to the ones that could not attend.
I say Steve or Deb or
Yeah. Yeah.
We can always
just
move it.
reach
If it
out
looks like
to
we're
you.
not going to get a quorum, we can move it.
How about the 11th?
So
Yeah. What about the 11th?
That would work for me.
And it would work for David, right, David?
And I'm out for the month, so.
that's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, Alan has a select board meeting that night.
I do.
Yeah, because Monday's Columbus Day.
Right, yeah. I probably will.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have one.
Okay.
Well, why don't we go back to the 5th, and we've got some people that may be able to attend that couldn't attend this time, and see if we can get that to work. And really, if you can get me your ideas, that will probably save about 20 minutes, 25 minutes of that meeting. So be thinking about how we roll forward in terms of well, let me back up just for a second. So for a number of different reasons, there was no funding put aside, which I think you know, for regionalization efforts that are being made. And there were some conversations that we had with representatives and with Southern Berkshire, and there's efforts to try to reinstate the money for that work. It was made clear in the regionalization report that if the state is serious and the legislators and whoever about, for some districts, probably those that are contiguous and that it works for, that if there is going to be a regionalization, that would probably never fly unless there was a commitment for incentive and money during that transition process, because there's a lot of work and a lot of things that have to get figured out, and the state's going to have to pony up and supply some funding for that. So we can't write a grant yet because there's no money out there. We can start to figure out how to structure it. We can't afford, in my opinion, to not do anything at this point. So I was thinking if we did a few working groups, many hands make things light, could just spend a couple of meetings to iron out what the logistics would look like on how we would roll that out. So if you could keep that in mind when you come to the next meeting, we might be able to have a pretty productive meeting and get things accomplished in a short amount of time.
Alan, and just to clarify, the purpose of these next steps is going to be to gather feedback on what we've done so far from town officials, members of the public, members of the school community.
No.
Is that true? Or something else?
I think it was something else. I didn't catch, it wasn't getting feedback. It was doing something we didn't do, that the COVID had not allowed us to do very extensively. Now that we've studied this in a number of different forums, including a facilitator, the next step is to let's organize. How are the forums going to be conducted? What's the script going to look like? Who's going to present it? How are they going to get set up? And I'm just picking one thing to focus on. There's a number of them. So once we can spend a couple months getting all this information out, and hopefully we'll get some money for a facilitator to assist us. Once we do that in the next 2 to 3 months, we'll be also listening to the feedback in our presentations of what people think and what their comments are. And then from that, we will probably put together a report about what our findings are. But we sort of did it not backwards, but people were taking surveys before they actually even knew about us or what we were doing. And so one of the comments was, can you educate us and really inform us of everything that was going on and share that with us, and then do a survey. So I think that's the order we're going to try to do this in. So the next step is to roll it out.
So when you say roll out, you mean present our findings to
I have to
members
go.
of the public,
all right, thanks, Karen.
officials,
yep,
etc. Right?
Yeah, roll out meaning sharing the information. But the next step for us will be to figure out the logistics of that. Who's going to do it? When's it going to happen? How are we going to reach out? All of that stuff. So that's like a planning group to put that together.
This is the PR push right now, Mike. It's basically to present our findings, and the findings are what we have in the presentation are the summary of what we found, which is, we would see significant programmatic.
Right. And we're planning to gather feedback.
I think we're gathered feedback, and that will allow us to move towards, all right, if we're going to move forward, then the next step would be to do a district agreement. If we are deciding as a board that we are going to make a recommendation, we can't do that without a district agreement, and therefore we have to move into that next phase. I talked with Natalie Blay last week, and she is and Comerford are pretty optimistic that they'll get the $500,000 of DESE grant funding hopefully put into the supplemental budget coming out in the fall here. So, they're still trying to figure out why it got dropped. I think it was just, there was so much going on at the legislative level that it just kind of got, there was a miscommunication between the Senate and the House in terms of who's going to actually put those funds in there as a grant. So they're trying to work that out right now. They feel pretty optimistic that they'll get it. I told her that, what we were doing was we were going to be presenting our findings this fall, gathering some feedback so that we can then in December or January be moving towards, okay, do we make a recommendation? And if we are making a recommendation to merge, then we have to come up with a district agreement to present to the towns. And that would be the next step, which could take upwards of 9 months.
Do we have to do that, or does the next planning board actually?
No, we have to do it, but we can hire a consultant.
We'll hire a consultant.
We don't have the time to do that, and it's a big job.
If we have the money.
Yeah, well, so Natalie Blay is letting the legislature know. What's that?
Because the consultants won't do all of it, because the important parts are what the agreement says, and the consultants won't be telling us how to apportion assessments, what the school committee is going to look like, how all that's going to work.
That is a whole process.
Suggestions,
right? It's a whole process, but we're going to need their help one way or the other, because we certainly can't do it, all ourselves.
Yeah. So we can have that conversation, and we can get into the particulars of how that might work. But it is a whole process that involves the town officials, a whole bunch of groups of people. The one good thing is that when the Heart Committee was together, we had a consultant that went through their regional agreement and brought it all up to speed for all the regulations and all the laws and all the requirements for DESE. So they modernized this 1991 agreement, amendment to the agreement. So there is a starting point that cleaned up that aspect, but there's a lot to it. All right,
well, the other good news, Alan, the other good news is that Berkshire Hills and Southern Berkshire District are moving. I've already moved ahead with coming up with their own district agreement. So they're ahead of us in this respect, because they have to get on the ball in terms of letting the state know through their MSBA loan whether or not they're going to be building a new high school for 800 or for a smaller, I think it was at 500. So, they have to get their district agreement done ASAP so that they don't lose out on their MSBA loan. So we'll actually have another planning board that will have gone through it, and we can hopefully lean on them a little bit and get advice. So, just in terms of some of the things that we have to think about.
Okay, thank you. So I would entertain any other comments. Bill, did you want to say something?
No, I said too much.
You were quiet. I didn't even know if you were with us for a while, and then I heard you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it.
All right, so I heard Bill, so I'll assume, Jane, you're a second. How's that?
Yes.
Yeah. Pat, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
and Bill.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening. What's left of it.
Greg.
I think the Red Sox might still be on.
Greg,
Yeah.
Greg, can I ask you, I must be missed on when you send the agenda out, or who does send the agenda?
Really? I will check. Is you were left out?
I got two letters, two emails from you, and it, sending along Alan's letter, but I did not get an agenda.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go back. I will go back.
And that happened last month.
Okay,
too.
so that tells me something. I mean, and that's good to know, because when I hit the planning board group email, I had set it up to include everybody. So I'll have to go back and make sure that your email address didn't somehow get like left off that the planning board group email. So
Okay.
it's a contact.
Michelle, what is your email address?
mgeruso578@gmail.com.
All right, I'm going to go back and look, because it, did you change it at all at any point or time?
No.
Okay, all right, then I'll go back and double check and make sure you're still a part of the group contact, because that's strange.
All right.
Shouldn't have done
Because I
that.
think it might have
thank you,
happened 3
Michelle.
months in a row.
Oh, no.
All right.
All right.
Well,
I'm sorry about that. All right. Well, I'm glad you brought it up. I can go check now.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.